Asha Gala. Thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Do you have a moment of gratitude to share with us?
I would. First of all, I'm humbled and grateful to have an opportunity to participate towards this podcast. So thank you very much. And I would like to be grateful to my daughter and son-in-law who have given me this beautiful grandchild, 5-month-old. And the best part is I am learning to live in the present moment I've never learned before. It's amazing how children can teach us so much more than we're even willing to accept. And lastly, I'm very grateful for everything that has brought me to the life I'm living today.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, we do learn so much from children, and as much as we as adults teach other adults how to do things differently or do things right or what have you, there's so much that we could learn through the innate experiences of children. Yeah. So you talk about where you are today. What has brought you into the plant-based world? What brought you here?
Oh my God, I'm dying to answer. I'm hoping that, I can share this because I just feel like I was just another ordinary person who moved to this country in 1989, absolutely new, culture. I was born and brought up in Mumbai. And I understand and relate to all, when you move to a different country, everything changes. People don't even understand what you're speaking. And that's how I landed here. I was already pregnant, and I delivered my beautiful daughter in a couple of months. And my journey almost started learning to get settled in this country, taking care of a baby, and with all of that. And what we discovered in a couple of months that she had a lot of eczema and rashes and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to connect. I know I went a little backward to kind of bring the sense of where I was when I started. And I'm grateful I have a husband who has a PhD in pharmacy. So, it's not that we were not exposed. So he applied his knowledge. He's like, we those were the things. So we started trying to use the traditional format of, when we were working towards her allergies and asthma and eczema. But we reached a point where my husband said, we can't be giving her this kind of medication because he knew the background of all of this. And it was a shock when he said that to me. I'm like, oh, that kind of, it really surprised me. At the same time, I was nervous and all of that. And that was the start of my journey, that the traditional medicine might not have answers. So I started looking answers. I think I kept searching for answers for almost about 3-4 years, maybe, because by then she still had the eczema. When they get older and older, it can get much more difficult taking care of a child. And then I think my last resort was I ended up going to Johns Hopkins, which is really an amazing, hospital for children. My allergist said, why don't you go there, see if they have any answers regarding all this issues she has. And I love the way the doctor there, he said, Asha, unfortunately, I'm in this research. Traditional medicine still does not have answers. But you know what? Look somewhere else. Try to look for other areas. And that gave me permission that, okay, if he's looking. And again, I started my journey. I probably looked into homeopathy, acupuncture, blah, 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 all of that. And all this kind of led me to, I came across Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And it was around 1995, I believe, or 94. That was the time I came across. He was a part of our insurance, and he was closer to home. And I went to him, and my first meeting itself was like, boy, he's like, well, we need to get rid of the dairy and we were vegetarian. I just want to specify, by religion, by culture, we were vegetarian, all my life. So I raised my daughter like that too. I was like, oh, and then we started following Dr. Furman, saying getting rid of all of the, the foods that she could probably be sensitive, because she had a lot of ear infections. It was like one thing leading to the other, I followed his advice. We took nutrition to heart. We, followed a whole plant-based food, and she did not have to take an antibiotic after that. And that is it. I got hooked. I absolutely got hooked. My husband had, a little bit of difficulty because of the tradition place that he was, but he also had a nice conversation with Dr. Furman, and he cleared it up, and that kind of gave us comfort that, no, we were on the right path, and we started doing our own research. And I believe that all led to all these beautiful books, China Study and, The Pleasure Trap, all of the amazing material that is there with Dr. Esselstyn, Neil Bernard, Dr. Clapper, Dr. McDougall. It all opened the doors for me into that whole world. And yes, I started living, but it was baby steps. Each year I would learn something more. And then by 2009, I took up a course that Dr. Furman was offering. It was like an educational trainer for, anybody who was interested. So I did that, and then I started helping people, and I could see results. But what was really missing is I could see that whenever I tried to help somebody, the doctors were not willing to accept. That was my big, and I lucked out. In 2013, I went for a lecture that Dr. Weiss was giving. And I happened to be there, I was excited. He was coming. I had heard that he was coming closer to our town, so I was even more excited. And like many people, I was standing, how you wait to talk to the lecturer at the end? That was me. I was waiting at the end of the queue. We got connected, and that's it. It was interesting. He said if I was interested in working with him. And 2014, I joined. We started the Ethos Primary Care practice together. And today I work, in 2019, 5 years later, I'm the lifestyle clinical director at Ethos Primary Care. So this is where I am. I hope I gave you everything.
That's such a wonderful progression of how your own child brought you to where you are today, and you were able to heal her, and not just her, help in healing so many other people. I wanted to ask you if eczema is something that is pertinent if eczema is something that you find a lot in Mumbai as well, or if this is more of a North American type disease that comes out a little bit more.
So I feel like there is some genetic issue, because I do see within my husband's family, eczema is pretty much prevalent there. Growing up in Mumbai, I don't remember seeing it in large the way I saw it here. That I can definitely say. That's why I think it was a shock to me that I had my child. But looking back, and now that I know about microbiome, one of the things that I had a C-section, I kind of feel like there are a lot of reasons that probably they say natural birth is definitely much more, when you can acquire the microbiome. So I don't know, I'm just kind of learning. It's a very fresh, everything is new. So I just kind of wanted to put out there that it's a little bit, it is there a part in my husband's genes. And I can see when my daughter takes extra care into being very disciplined towards a whole plant-based food, does help her. When she deviates, it all comes back. So it kind of, it's very, she's a perfect example.
I can relate to that a lot. As a child, I must have been on antibiotics somewhere between 10 and 12 times a month for the first at least 20 years of my life. And then, down to maybe 5 or 6 from ear infections that I continued into my 20s. People are like, ear infections is a kid's thing. Like, why are you getting this as an adult? I was married with perforated eardrums. It's not on my wedding day, but I was married and had perforated eardrums. Then strep throat, sinus infections, all of those things that eventually, is a non-issue today. But my microbiome from all those antibiotics, all those years, and my firstborn child having eczema, I get it.
Here's what I find fascinating about your story is that the listeners that know our story know about our son Russ, who also grew up with eczema at a very young age, and we didn't know what was causing it, and neither did the doctors. But then we decided we were going to remove gluten from his diet and see the impact that made, and it made a huge impact. And then once we took out the dairy from his lifestyle and the animal products, it changed even further to become better. And it just goes to show you the impact that food makes on our body. And it really has a positive or negative effect depending on what we're putting into our body. And it's such a common thing here in North America to have these chronic illnesses or diseases. And sometimes the answer is pretty simple. We have to be watching what we're consuming. And the other thing that I find very fascinating is that your husband, being a pharmacist, was willing to not give the medication. And that goes to show you that there are different pharmacists all over the world pushing their product, but there are some that understand what the medication is really doing to our bodies and change the way they're prescribing or producing the medications that they're giving. So that I thought that was interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
And you said it so beautifully. He loves being a farmer. That was what, and he knows that that there is a place for it.
For sure.
But if we use it wisely, I think that's what now he's realizing, that it's so misused. And it bothers him that if we really used it wisely, we could just help this world much more differently than the way it is today.
Absolutely. And Adam said, it's so simple as to making changes in your diet sometimes. But the truth is that for many people, right. So the answer is simple, but the mechanics of it and the mindset of it for many people is not simple. And that's where your work at Ethos comes in right now in terms of helping people transition and maintain a plant-based lifestyle. So if we talk about the mechanics of actually doing, or the mindset of actually sticking with it, does one outwin the other, or does it have to be both together? What's your opinion there?
So this is what I like to say between mechanics and mindset. I feel that mindset definitely wins. I think of it, it's like this, when you have the right mindset, you get motivated, you sort of start, you sort all the mechanics that are there, the tools that you need. You only have the mechanics, and if you only have the mechanics without the mindset, then you're missing the key focus needed to achieve that goal. So I think there is a place where mindset has a room and a place where the mechanics has a room. I hope I kind of explained it. And that's where I definitely feel the mindset would win.
I would think mindset would always win. I mean, if somebody's not willing to make a change or wanting to make a change, you can't do it for them. You can give them all the materials, all the tools, all the books to read, all the documentaries to watch. But at the end of the day, they got to take personal responsibility and be willing to institute that change.
And if the mindset is in the right place, they will do what they need to do to get the mechanics. So maybe that was a little bit of a loaded question.
Maybe.
Yes, it is. And we could have days debating it.
And the question that we always ask that there's no answer to is, how do we get more people to turn that mindset on so that they're willing to make that change? But we can't necessarily make the change for them or turn that button on. They got to find that from within.
So the tool that you're using a lot now is the MBSR. And I'd like for you to explain that in terms that we'll understand and our listeners will understand, because I think a lot of people have not heard of it before.
Yes. So that's why, MBSR, let's start with this. Yes, and I will talk, if you don't mind, I'll give a little bit of a history, if that's okay. Sure. Just to kind of give that background. So MBSR is mindful-based stress reduction. And this is basically, in a very simple format, it is a program where you can build your awareness muscles. If I had to say it in one line, that would be the perfect description. And this is where the mindset comes, as you brought. If I could build awareness, this is where it would all, when people learn to build awareness, that would be the first point of transition. And then it gets to the tool. So I've been into this from 2014 is when I first got introduced to it. And I still feel I barely know it. So it's such a deep ocean, beautiful. It has a great connection, if we could, towards a whole plant-based food. So here is what I would like to say. If you don't mind, I had some notes on it. I would just want to say, one of the reasons that MBSR, it got originated in UMass, University of Massachusetts, in 1978 by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. He was doing his own research there, and I think that's where it all came, it was born. That's the birth of it. And I love the way they said it. The intention of MBSR was basically as a public initiative, right? For that, they found it. It was a bell curve for humanity towards greater health and well-being and wisdom. That's what John Kabat-Zinn thought, that this was a great tool if they could bring it within the hospital to alleviate the current stresses that they were, the issues that they were facing. And I also wanted to bring about, it was actually MBSR when it started, it was an intervention for physical, emotional, and psychological reasons. So it's a broad way you can bring it to. It can support a primary, secondary, and tertiary public health goals too. You can prevent the illnesses, diseases. You can include like a lot of support. And even if when you are at a juncture where that, you might not be able to heal from that health issue, MBSR still could be used. So it has a level to be used in all the areas, like as a primary reason, as a secondary reason, we could use it in all of those areas that you would be able to. Then I also like to define it. I love the way the definition MBSR, it's paying attention in a particular way. John Kabat-Zinn has described, he's given this a definition, paying attention in a particular way to what's actually happening in the present moment with an attitude of non-judging. And I think that is beautiful. If we are able to get that would be. And along with all of this, when we start doing MBSR, it's beautiful that at least for me, the possibility of growing familiar with how our mind and attention, they generally operate. And another thing I realized, I didn't have to quiet my mind, right? These thoughts were there and there and there, but I just had to be aware. And then the action that I was willing to take came from a deeper level without letting my thoughts kind of overpower my action. So that's one of the deeper ways. And yeah,
so
I just want to kind of.
So I want to understand, is this a system in which we quiet our mind, have more mindfulness, reduce our stress so that our health can then flourish? Or is it something that we apply specifically to being able to overcome the challenges that we have in becoming plant-based and keeping it consistent? Or does that go hand in hand?
It's everything what you said is true.
Okay.
I like to say that because MBSR helps to build our awareness muscle. So, for example, when I start building my awareness muscle, I'm willing to look into my lifestyle. I'm willing to open the doors and see what is the reason am I sick, or what is the reason I am stressed out, or what is the reason. It could be any reason that I'm not able to work out, or it kind of opens that awareness door, and then you are willing to take up that ownership, right, into finding what is missing or what can be enhanced. And I think when you get that mindset, again, you need that mindset to be that. Once you have that mindset, you start looking for answers. And I feel now I can relate to my mindset was the reason in 1995 I still kept looking for answers before I came to the whole plant-based food world. And that's what I'm hoping, that if the awareness starts, at some point, if there is an awareness, we would be able to tap into the whole plant-based food world a little more easily without having as much difficulty. There would be an open-mindedness. You come with a beginner's mind.
So is there a specific technique or methodology that you use to be able to build this awareness muscle through MBSR?
Yes, it is. It is an 8-week program, and it definitely has a very beautiful structure to it. It introduces almost one of the tools that it introduces to build awareness is through meditation. And there are various forms of meditation that are introduced in this. And the beautiful thing that it was brought to the secular level, right? Meditation has been done for thousands of years. But I think John Kabat-Zinn did, and his team and everybody that worked hard, they picked up its value and they brought it into an 8-week format.
So besides meditation, what else can people expect to learn and gain?
I think one of the things that through the meditation, as I said, when we are able to, when people go through that 8-week program, initially, they realize that sitting and doing, and when I say meditation, I know I had a very wrong concept. I had to sit down in a particular way. But I think it is not necessarily just that. I think awareness can be even taking a shower, riding a bike, driving. It was surprising in my second class, a teacher said, moving forward, try actually taking a shower. And I was like, what is she saying? Actually taking a shower. And so I think those are some, you get introduced to those concepts which we are not, we don't connect to our daily because we're on autopilot. We live a very autopilot way. We are always the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But when we stop and do nothing, actually is more productive. And I learned that. So I don't know if I kind of touched that doing nothing in a mindful way, bringing awareness, brought a huge, it was just beautiful journey for me from then on.
So what are some of the mental or physical health improvements you've seen from teaching this or of sharing it with the people?
So my own personal, I would like to share my personal experience. When I first started my MBSR program, and as I said, when I was first introduced, the shower. It shocked me. Yes, I was not in the shower. I was busy. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. And then when she said, I actually started noticing, and I started taking the shower being in the moment. Even when I started eating my meals, I realized. So I think it connected me a little bit more closer to my strengths, that I was capable. It was, even though I know I was leading a whole plant-based food world, right? By then, in 2014, I was still, but this piece, I think, was tremendously missing, this piece of the thoughts crowding my mind. One of the most beautiful things that I started realizing is the awareness, because through mindfulness, you will learn all the sensations within your body. You're learning. It's all about cueing of how. And I am now, I feel, as I said, slow and steadily, I am able to, when I get irritated or when I'm losing it, I can feel my body, the tightening, and I'm able to right away say, okay. And I know I might be slipping. I might say something like, get irritated at my husband. Probably he gets it the most. But I'm able to see the difference, to kind of, oh, this part of me, the awareness part of Asha, you got irritated. All you had to do is probably explain him in a little bit differently. So the hat of awareness starts coming up, and then I'm able to take a few steps, back. And I'm not perfect, but I'm able to communicate with my husband the discomfort or the irritability in a little bit better way. And I think that tool, we don't have that. That is a tool, I was at least not aware of it. And I feel that's a very critical tool.
So I'm thinking about, how this helps us with what our greater journey and what we're trying to achieve. And if you're not getting as wound up in conversations, if you're able to express yourself better, if you're not making your husband angry with your first 3 words, which then turns around and makes you angrier, your stress levels are down and you're able to make better decisions, and you're not running into emotional eating or being like, oh, yes, woe is me. I had a bad conversation with my husband, so everything's bad today. So I'm just going to make bad choices for the rest of the day. So I think really overall, you're talking about it making you more present, making you paying attention to your movements, your choices, your actions throughout the day. And if you're more mindful and you actually feel the water going on you when you take a shower, you feel the soap coming out of your hair, you feel the food that you're chewing, you feel the emotions, and you could make better decisions in conversations than when you're choosing foods, or you're choosing if you're going to exercise or watch Netflix or what have you. You're able to then make better decisions that are going to affect your overall health.
Yes. No, yes, that's, and something just came up when you said that. At Ethos, what we do is we have a class for our participants where we do it's called Let's Toss class, and where the participants have a meal with us. And for 10 minutes, we do like a guided mindful eating. And these participants have never done this mindful eating before. It's in silence, we are guiding them. And the instructions are they're supposed to chew very slowly and listen to, and then if they wanted to continue the silence eating, they can. And it's very beautiful that 99%, I think the participant says they've never eaten this way before. They've never connected, because in our guiding, when I'm guiding, I'm actually connecting how the food was prepared, where it was grown, who developed it, who helped grow it, the soil, the pollinators, everything that is connected, and they almost feel that journey as they're eating slowly. So all of that is true because they took time to sit down, do nothing, and go through that process to be connected.
So there's plenty of people listening probably, or people in society that would say, I don't have time to do that. It's a fast-paced world. I need to learn how to cut corners and make things happen a lot quicker. What do we say to those people? What could they do maybe as a small step to start becoming more aware of certain things without losing the pace that they're going through in society, if that's even possible?
Yeah. I know, and I think they can choose one thing, a very simple thing. We all do daily autopilot stuff daily. If they can pick one thing, whether they are driving their children to school or whether they are, going to pick them up or even grocery shopping, if they can pick one activity and if they choose, even for 10 minutes, they can have a timer or 5 minutes and do that activity very slowly and kind of see how their thoughts are intervening or how that activity, even for 5 minutes, how does it come up to be? And I think that learning lesson will automatically come up, whether they were paying attention or they were not. There would be, that one particular activity if they could do it that way. And that will help them slow and steadily.
And what if they were a family who wanted to try this meditative eating and guided eating? What would you recommend, with young children, maybe around the ages of, 9 and 11? How would you recommend going about that, and what would you include in that?
So one thing I always want to say, children are far more in moment and in presence than us. As adults, if you have children around you, just watch them. Just be with them. Even if you can spend just see how it's just beautiful. So I feel it is us adults who are always not sure, we forget being in the moment. We gradually forget as we start getting older and older. So within a family, I would strongly suggest that, you can build any activity. You can decide it with your children, whether it's a food activity or whether it's a playing activity or building something together. But they can all decide that together. And if they put in the moment and decide, how they would do it, and they would actually tell each other, and I know the children probably will be more in the present, but if the parents can, while they're doing this activity, if they can have a log, if there are thoughts coming through or they get distracted or the phone rings or how many times they got it, I think that itself, they can log and they see the difference and they can watch that their children will not be distracted. They will not be. They will be very much in, whether even if you did this guided eating, I'm sure if I told in a fun way, hey, you know what, we're going to do this guided eating, I have a strong feeling they are much more with open mind because it's the food probably they enjoy, they don't mind. But if we kind of walk them through and say, hey, let's see, where did this food come from? Who helped it grow? Who, how its connection to the environment and all that, they're going to connect. They are, because they love learning.
They do. They really, really do. I think that's wonderful. And those are great ideas that people can start to do at home. Connect with yourself, be present in the moment, feel the feels, smell the smells of these daily routines that we do. And we just kind of go through the go through the movements and see how we, how we can progress from there, how our anxiety comes down, how our choices change, how our interactions with other people can change. I think that's a beautiful message for people today. If people wanted to reach out and find out more about what you're doing at Ethos, find out more about MBSR, where can they reach out to get in touch with you? Where would you like them to go?
Sure, I'll say, can I just add this one thing towards the mindfulness? One thing that I wanted to add, since we already know about being on autopilot, MBSR or mindfulness, it almost helps us to pay attention to our thoughts, feelings, emotions, relationships, environment. And it's fascinating that when we actually connect, we experience what is happening. And I think I just kind of wanted to emphasize that when you experience what is happening, the intention or the action that you take from there will probably be really right for you for that moment. You will be able to do that. So, where Ethos is in Long Valley. That's where you can find me. Our website is ethoshealth.org. And in fact, I wanted to say that at Ethos, we continue to work with patients. It's up to them, but Dr. Weiss encourages them to choose, as a conservative doctor, to see if they can use whole plant-based food to work towards their health issues. And then I, as a lifestyle coach, help them using, MBSR techniques, because, bringing the awareness of why these are. And I think when we put both of these together, the chances of success definitely increases. I can say you can reach us. Even I can work with people online too. I mean, they don't even have to come to the farm. We do have telemedicine options, phone calls. We will be, in fact, one of the things that we are launching for our holiday time is we're doing like a 2-week challenge. So if they're brand new, they don't know whole plant-based food, just for 2 weeks. Give a gift to yourself for 2 weeks. They can try out this challenge. They can bring whole plant-based food into their lives, and using MBSR techniques to kind of bring both of them together.
We know that Dr. Weiss and you and everyone at Ethos is doing so many great things and helping people in such wonderful ways, and we really appreciate all the work that is being done over there. And you, Asha, as a lifestyle coach, helping people transition to the plant-based lifestyle, the whole food plant-based lifestyle, and making it easier on them and making the change, because making the change is not always an easy thing to do. And finding ways to build on the mindset and bring in the mechanics and tools and blend that all together is often challenging for people. So thank you for doing that work and helping people find an easier way to transition. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here on the Plant Trainers podcast. We will, of course, put all the links to you and Ethos in our show notes at planttrainers.com. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.